What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we need to talk about Sundial stock, ticker symbol SNDL, as well as a couple other cannabis stocks like TLRY, Organigram, Aurora Cannabis, Canopy Growth. All these stocks are doing incredibly well, and it's because of some news as well as some technical patterns playing out in the charts. But basically, some states are being forced to vote on cannabis legalization. In the federal government, the Senate is looking at other laws that could relate to cannabis and looking at enabling some new research to be done on them, as well as some new standards set for cannabis consumption. So we're going to look at all of that. Cannabis stocks overall are doing incredibly well today. If you look at the chart, Sundial is up about 5.5%, as is TLRY. Organigram is up 7%. Hexo's up 6%. Aurora Cannabis is up 5.5%, and Canopy Growth is up almost 9%. So all of these stocks are doing incredibly well. Sundial also is doing incredibly well. So we are seeing actually an interesting pattern on Sundial. We just actually saw a double bottom at 53 cents. We hit 53 cents twice on Sundial. We're finally starting to move up, and it looks like, if you look at the 90-day chart, like we might get to see a beautiful W-shaped pattern on Sundial, a double bounce right there, and we'll hopefully just continue moving straight on up to $1 so that we can get there by February 7th when Sundial is at risk of being delisted if it doesn't actually meet compliance by then. So hopefully Sundial will continue moving up, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't with all of this great news that we've got coming out on Sundial. So first off, we're going to talk about something going on in the Senate. Senator is actually calling for federal marijuana standards to be implemented regarding impaired driving. So the current patchwork of marijuana driving policies in states across the U.S. isn't workable, Senator is claiming, and he's urging the federal government to establish cannabis standards for impaired driving. So his name is Senator John Hickenlooper. That's fun. He's a Democrat from Colorado, and he brought up that the president recently signed an infrastructure bill which he sponsored a part of, requiring federal agencies to study and issue a report regarding the regulatory barriers related to studies on marijuana impaired driving. And we're going to talk about cannabis studies in just a second, but he also added that under Colorado law, a person found to be driving with more than 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood can be used as evidence of impairment. And he actually spoke against these standards. He said that these types of standards where you just say this amount of nanograms per milliliter, he said they were unscientific and inadvisable. And he urges that the federal government develop a federal marijuana impaired driving standard so that we can have something as a national standard. Instead of going state by state, he wants something done at the federal level, and we might actually be getting some headway on this, right? It seems like he is starting to prepare us for cannabis legalization at the federal level, right? It would make sense if we were legalizing cannabis federally for us to have some kind of impaired driving standard instead of having to worry about which state you're in, what the laws are. Now, this is also going to be aided by Republican lawmakers who are filing a bill to streamline research into marijuana as well as other psychedelics and essentially all Schedule I drugs. So Republican lawmakers in the House and the Senate have introduced new legislation that would make it easier for scientists to research Schedule I drugs. And it's actually, this bill is titled the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act. So the HALT Act. And essentially, it mostly focuses on fentanyl, right? That's the idea. That's why people are focusing on this. That's why they're making this bill. However, the legislation contains provisions to streamline the research process for all Schedule I drugs. So it's not just fentanyl. It includes cannabis. It includes LSD, mescaline, and MDMA. And scientists and lawmakers have already consistently been asking and pointing out that the existing rules for studying Schedule I controlled substances, they said that they were excessively burdensome and limited vital research. So they've been asking for this for a long time. It looks like it may finally happen, and that could actually aid with this federal cannabis impairment standard, right? If they do some more research onto it, they could figure out what level of cannabis is actually appropriate to start calling someone impaired at. So that would actually be very beneficial for the country if we got this done before legalization, and then we don't have to worry about it after the fact, after some potentially court cases arise due to this issue. If people are driving under the influence of cannabis, then we probably won't have to deal with too many issues. As long as we've gotten the proper research done and have the proper laws in place, then things could be streamlined and made a lot easier. And it would actually be a lot easier to legalize cannabis if you already have all of this framework in place, because there would be far fewer complaints about potential issues that could arise if you just legalize cannabis right off the bat and don't have these things in place first. So this is all in all very good regarding cannabis legalization. It's paving the way for cannabis legalization in 2022. I expect we'll probably see that. And we're already seeing some other states that we're going to talk about in just a second legalizing cannabis, or at least being forced to vote by the voters to legalize cannabis. So first, before I show you that, I want to show you the channel analytics. We've got 8,500 subscribers. We just crossed that milestone yesterday, and we're trying to get to 9,000. So we're only about 500 away. If you guys if you guys want, hit the subscribe button for the most updated Sundial, TLRY, Organigram news. We surely cover all of those on the channel. We're going to talk a lot more about them in 2022, likely as they are rising. These stocks, I expect, will be doing very well. It looks like we're already on the way to a pattern of recovery. We're probably moving up from this point. I don't expect that we'll make new lows on this. 53 I already thought was incredibly low on Sundial, 53 cents that is. So I expect we'll probably be moving up both in subscriber count and in price on a lot of these stocks. So feel free to subscribe. Now, on to the next big story. Ohio marijuana activists have submitted signatures to force the legislature to consider legalization. So essentially, Ohio marijuana activists on Monday submitted a big petition with over 200,000 signatures, 206,000 signatures to be exact. And that's essentially going to require the legislature to consider cannabis legalization. And the fun thing is about this, they only needed to collect 132,000 valid signatures, and they got far more than that. Obviously, this is a very popular issue in Ohio. I think a lot of people in the Ohio legislature are going to be facing pressure from the voters to get this thing passed. And if they don't pass it, then all that the voters in Ohio need to do is collect an additional 132,000 signatures. They only need to collect an additional 132,000, it looks like, and then that will place the proposal before voters on the ballot in November of 2022 during the midterm election. So this is all in all a pretty good thing. It looks like if the legislature doesn't push this forward and doesn't actually get cannabis legalized in Ohio, then Ohio voters will be able to do it themselves. And it looks like there is massive support for it, considering the fact that they needed only to get 132,000 signatures, and they got 206,000. So I think a lot of voters will probably try to legalize cannabis in Ohio sometime in 2022. That's what we're looking at, potentially in November if the legislature doesn't do it before then. But all in all, it's looking like the overall trend is massively hedged in the direction of legalization. It looks like all kinds of organizations at the state and federal level are considering this. I expect that we'll probably see legalization sometime in 2022, and that will be a very good thing for Sundial stock, especially looking at the short interest. We've got a lot of shorts actually today fleeing Sundial stock. We're down almost 1% short interest change-wise, which is interesting because normally we're up. So normally we see more shorts getting into Sundial, but we've actually lost between today and about 2 days ago, we've lost about 6 million short shares. Shorts are actually starting to escape Sundial. They're starting to get away. That is, in part, raising the price a little bit, right? We're up about 5% on the day on Sundial. We're up to above 62 cents per share. Some shorts have left. So it's looking good overall. It's looking like maybe the shorts are starting to see the writing on the wall. Potentially, they're starting to realize that cannabis legalization in the US is almost inevitable. And it seems like Sundial stock, as well as all of the other cannabis stocks, of course, are probably going to benefit from this, not just over the long term, but there's almost certainly going to be a massive pump, a meme stock-like pump on these stocks when we actually start to see cannabis legalization become more of a possibility in the United States. So that's what I'm expecting for 2022. If you want the most up-to-date information on that, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Obviously, guys, take into account, none of this is financial advice. I'm not recommending anyone do anything with their money. I'm not recommending anyone buy any stocks, sell any stocks. I'm just giving you guys the news on these stocks and letting you know my opinions on them. So feel free to subscribe if you want more of that. But other than that, guys, have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.